Greetings everyone, Jim Walker here. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Welcome back if you are a returning viewer. This video, dealing with snare drums, as you can guess from the 3 snare drums set in front of me, but specifically dealing with snare drums larger than 14-inch size, and even more specifically dealing with them in a drum set application, because we played field drums and marching band and used 16-inch, 15-inch snare drums, separate context. These are more for secondary or sometimes even primary use on drum set. That's kind of the focus today. Why I have an interest in drums this size and why I might choose one of these drums over another in a particular context or for a particular application. Quick introduction as to how I got into this topic. I think it goes back to my undergraduate days at Ithaca College. We had, among the instruments that the school had, there was a 15 by, I believe, 6.5-inch deep leady snare drum. I don't remember if there was any designation for it from the company in terms of a concert snare or this model or that model. 8 lugs, I believe. Now, I'm going off of really old memories here. I graduated in 1988. It's 2021, so 88 to 12 plus 21, 33. So, oh man. You know, I'm just not feeling old enough today. What do you got for me? 33 years since I played that drum. So if I'm a little hazy on the specs, and we weren't really, also on top of that, we weren't, back in the day, maybe it was just the people in that particular school, the students and teacher, we weren't focused on the specifications of instruments the way people are nowadays in the age of the internet. It's like, how many plies is that? What kind of edges does it have? What kind of snares are on it? What's this? What is that? And you just get into all these things because you're discussing them on forums and social media versus just playing them. We had in the school one suspended cymbal with rivets. So if you played a piece of percussion ensemble or orchestra that called for a rivet cymbal, we went and got the rivet cymbal. None of how many rivets, what kind. So the specifications, I didn't have paid that much attention to them at the time to begin with, and add in 3 decades of my memory fading, I'll remember as best I can. All I remember, it was 15 by 6.5, 7 inches deep, leady, and it was lovely. I don't remember if it was maple. I think it might have been mahogany. Who knows? And I've lost touch with everyone up at the school over the years, so I don't even know if they still have the drum anymore. It's been so long. That being said, that just planted a little seed in my mind about an interest in knowing I could get successful results with a larger snare drum. We use that a lot in the wind ensemble and the percussion ensemble. I remember using it on a performance of Stravinsky's Histoire du Soldat, and boy, do I miss playing stuff like that. But I digress. Just planted seed. 15-inch snare drum can be a really good thing. So fast forward a few years, it's 2003. I have started in with the do-it-yourself drum builder thing, and one of the first drums I built, assembled, whatever you want to call it. At that point, it was kind of assembly because I wasn't cutting edges and doing this. I was just drilling and finishing and putting the hardware together. But this one from 2003 is one of my earliest builds. I'll give you the specs on these drums in a minute. And just very happy with the results. And a few years later, I thought, well, hey, if a 15 is good, why not a 16? And I think I read somewhere that, I'm going to say this and it's not going to be right and someone's going to correct me, but that's fine. Somewhere, someone's saying, oh yeah, John Robinson used a 16-inch snare drum on such and such. Who knows? I don't know. I couldn't testify to that in a court of law. But just, it was out there. Going that one notch further to a 16-inch snare drum. So in 2006, I believe, is when I built this one. These are all home built, do it yourself. I'll get the specs momentarily. And I'll talk about why the difference is inherent. And it's not going to be a perfect A, B, or AC comparison on this one. It's not drums that are otherwise identical except for the change in diameter, but it's enough to give a sense of the tendencies and why I might choose one drum over the other. So getting into the specifics, again, thumbnail version. 14-inch diameter, 5.5 inches deep, 10-ply Keller maple shell, fairly sharp bearing edges, 45-degree cut, slight 45-degree countercut on the outside, no reinforcement rings. We'll get to heads and snares in a minute. Shell on this one, 10-ply Keller maple, but with a full round over, top and bottom. This shell, 6-ply Keller maple with 6-ply reinforcement rings, about an inch wide, top and bottom. Fairly sharp edges, 45-degree countercut with a 45 slight countercut on the outside. 45 inside cut, 45-degree countercut. No rings, reinforcement rings. Head choices, pretty similar, although we have some different brands. Remo Suede Ambassador over, just put a fresh one on, a Remo Ambassador weight snare side. And these two, various eras, I don't know if it'll show on the camera, different logos. Aquarian, satin finish texture coated, Aquarian texture coated, I think it's the same head with a different name, over an Evans 300 weight on the bottom. Snares, Noble and Cooley cam action snares, generic, I think 20 strand snares, Gibraltar, or just the basics ones you'd find at any music store. And I believe 20 strand, I'll check that in post-production, and I'll put up a correction if that's not the case. Slingerland, new old stock snares, which is kind of where I got started on building this drum. I found a couple of sets of 16-inch Slingerland snares, wire snares, on eBay in 2004, 2005. Oh, that's interesting. Picked them up and they sat on the shelf for a couple of years, and then eventually I built a drum around it. That happens to me a lot. You get a couple of parts and you use that as an excuse for building a drum. You know, I got 3 tension rods and a threaded air vent. Oh, I better build a snare drum. I'd hate to have those parts go to waste. I believe the technical term is rationalization. So, but that was kind of the genesis of this drum. I had the snares. Let's take it and see where it goes. And tuning-wise, I want to do 2 things on this. And they're going to demonstrate. I'm going to try to go quickly because they're going to demonstrate some obvious things, but I want to document them. I went through each of these drums. I'm going to start with the same head tensions and compare the resulting pitches, and then I'm going to tune the 14-inch drum. I could do the 15 too, but just I'm going to go with the exaggeration. The 14-inch drum compared to the 16-inch drum, I'm going to tune this one down to the same pitch as the 16 and see what the resulting head tension is like. The main reason why I might use these drums, we'll get into the tuning thing in a minute. For me, one of the main appeals for a drum like this, a 16-inch or a 15-inch, the lower overall tuning range, which is kind of obvious, but also obvious, but maybe not the first thing that comes to mind, a lower tuning range, but at a higher head tension. All of these heads are tuned to, I got out my brand new, recently purchased drum dial, and this is not an advertisement. I have no endorsement, no affiliation with the company, nothing. This is just, I picked it up the other day, in part because I knew I would use it in this video, but just as a way of measuring tensions. You'll see that I've got another video up where I did some bearing edge repair on a friend's snare drum. And after I had the drum taken apart, I thought, boy, it sounded really good when it came through the door. Wouldn't it be nice if I could remember how he had it tuned it up and duplicate that when I give it back to him? So that's why I picked up a device for measuring the tension on heads. But also for this one, I'll give you some measurements on this one. These were all tuned basically by ear. I did tweak with this a little bit. I'm brand new to this thing, so I don't know if I'm going to start using it for tuning or not. Initial results I'm really liking, but again, Steve from Drum Dial popped me a couple of messages on social media. Hi, Steve. I suspect you're watching this. But again, in case anyone's wondering, no affiliation, and also please don't read anything into it and turning it around saying, well, he's not endorsing it, he must not like it. Just it's not even on the table. Just take it off the radar screen. It's not an issue at all. But using those measurements, slowly getting my way back to my point, just for reference, since you can't all come over here and play my drums and get a feel for the head tension as you play, I don't have enough space in my driveway for you all to come over. all the top heads, I started with where the 15 was tuned. And I said, well, let me match these to this. About an 88 top and an 80 on the bottom, whatever that drum dial measures. I'm not sure what it is. It's measuring pounds. Who knows? Steve will probably pop in on the comments and let us know. But whatever drum mouse it says 88, that's the top here. And that's just tuning by ear. That's where I happen to be with this drum. So I brought this one up to the same tension and this one around to the same tension. So same head tension. We get the obvious difference in pitches. And so this is going to be highest, medium, low. And I'm finding roughly a major second, maybe a little wide, somewhere in there. It's not a perfect pitch. It's not a clear, absolute pitch the way you get on a piano or a vibraphone, but roughly speaking, a whole step. Okay, maybe a minor third in there somewhere, but or a minor second. It's a whole Hindemith thing I can get into on major versus minor thirds, but another time perhaps. Let me give you those with the snares on. Make sure the brushes aren't affecting it. So all I can tell you, it's not going to come through the video screen, but I can tell you the feel of the sticks on the head, the rebound, the response is very similar with all three drums. So the application is if I want a lower sounding snare drum, but I still want to do things that are kind of delicate or require some sort of touch sensitivity. I know, me, and plus I haven't warmed up, which is just making it worse. But it's going to be easier on this drum because there's more head tension, better response. That's kind of the obvious one. So you're going to see a bit of an edit here. I'm going to tune my 14 down to the same pitch as the 16, just going by ear, and we'll see. We use the drum dial, we'll find out roughly where it is, and I'll let you know what I think of the resulting difference in feel as I play the drum head at the lower tension. Back in a minute. So we are back, obviously. Having brought the pitch down as rough as I can get it, and I mean, I haven't put up a strobe tuner or anything like that to really check the pitch, just going by ear. Pretty for our purposes, pretty close. And for those of you who want the drum dial reference from the 88, and I put it back on this drum, it's closer to an 89, I guess. 88, 89, we're down around 84 for this head. So it's still got a fair amount of tension on it, but it's subtle, but I can feel it's not quite the same crisp response in terms of the stick rebounding off of the drum. And I haven't tweaked the bottom heads, I haven't changed the snare wire tensions, just the top head that got retuned. So what does that prove? Absolutely nothing, other than showing the tendency. Does that mean that this drum is better at that pitch than this drum? No, it depends upon the sound you want, because you can hear I'm getting a different timbre. This still, even for its size, sounds a little bit crisper because of the higher head tension, my theory. versus this, you can hear this doesn't sound as crisp as it does before. It's got, and I'll let you rewind the video to where I played this before. And who knows, maybe it's just me not really getting the tuning completely dialed in. I did go around with the drum dial and tried to get it as even as I could, but it's just at a lower tuning. That tends to be the result that I've found, is that you get a little bit more of that extraneous snare buzz. That might be exactly the sound you want, in which case take a 14 and tune it down. Hey, take a 13 and tune it down. Knock yourself out. But now I've got an option. If I want that, if I want that loose sort of a sound, that drum can do it. If I wanted that pitch, but a little bit crisper, maybe go to this drum. So now it's just increasing my options. So it depends upon the sound that I want, the song that I'm playing, the kind of music that I'm playing. But that's the sort of thing that might send me to this drum rather than this drum in a certain context. And the same thing holds true with going the other direction with 13-inch, even 12-inch snare drums. I could crank this one up and get a higher pitch, a certain higher pitch, but maybe I like the looser sound that I can get that pitch at using a 13 or even a 12. So that, for me, is the big reason to have these different size snare drums. One of two reasons. I'll mention the second one in a moment, almost forgot it. Same pitch, different timbre, different stick response on the head. The other is you can just use these larger tuning or different tuning ranges. What if I take this one down? And let me do this. We got down to around 84. Let me pause the video again. Let me bring this one down to around the same tension this head is at. Let's see where this one ends up pitch-wise. Be back in a moment. So the last step in the snare drum only presentation, and momentarily we'll have video from down on the drum set where I'll take my 16, this 15, and I've got another 15 with a synthetic shell, a carbon-kevlar shell from the now defunct Tempus drum company. Or at least it's no longer under the auspices of Paul Mason. I don't think the name is active either, but we'll have another 15 to work with there. But now, the results. Taking this down is around, using our drum dial is around an 84. Taking this to the same tension, we see where we end up. Here is the 14. Same tension for the 16. And we pop the snares on. I haven't changed the snare side tension, the snare wires. All I changed was the top head. Maybe I could get this dialed in better, but I'm just comparing the batter head tension for now. So in addition to giving us different timbres or just some different options at the same overall pitch, we can now, different sizes, same pitch, now we can use the extended range. And I'm not going to, I'm tempted to take this down to the same pitch. Why not? Let's do that. Give me a second. Let me see if I can get this down to the same pitch as this. I wasn't planning on this. One more moment. Let me give this a shot. Okay, the last segment of this, because I suppose we could keep going, but I would end up to the point the heads would be so low I would have to go downstairs to the basement and play, or some stupid comment like that. But so we worked our way down. We got to an 80, just as for sake of consistency here, for those keeping score at home, we're around an 83, 84, 83-ish. Yeah, seems to be reading right around 83, maybe 84. I'm not killing myself with the tunings on this one, but I just want to show the general tendency. So to try to get these at the same pitch, I brought this one down. Again, pretty close. Not identical, but pretty close. The tension on this one, again, for those of you keeping score at home, we're hanging right around 80, 81. Kind of a Matheny thing. Yeah, 82 on a couple of these. And I'm showing my place on the learning curve with this thing. Die-cast hoops have always given me trouble tuning. Everyone says die-cast hoops are easier to tune. They're tougher to tune for me because they don't have as much flex. So that's my suspicion anyway. So it's not perfect, but the end results, you're getting around the same pitch. Really loose. Now again, is one better than the other? Not inherently. I like this. I like this drum down way low. It's got kind of a Jay Bellerose thing going on here. That's got a charm to it. I like that. But in our ongoing round of anything you can do, I can do better, I could take this one down a little bit lower and still have a decent snare response on it. So what does this prove? Absolutely nothing. Other than I like having a lower sound at a higher tension or the same sound at a looser tension. It gives options. So that's why I like having 15s and 16s available to me. And in the shallower depths too. And people now is taking their floor toms and go on eBay, find an old floor tom and stick a snare mechanism on the bottom. And what do they call it? A snom? I hate that term. I don't like it. I'm sorry. Nothing personal, guys. I don't like that term. I understand snare, tom, snom, fine, but it's not for me. But we still get the fairly quick response of a standard, for lack of a better term, depth shell, roughly 5 inches, 5.5, 5.5. So if you've seen something here that has whet your appetite for trying a larger diameter drum set snare, two concerns before I wrap up here. You got to have a stand that'll handle it. Pearl has made a stand for years that you can adjust the arms of the basket and easily accommodate a drum. I got an old Hamilton snare stand, under the 16 here. I believe Ludwig and I want to say Tama have come out with snare drum stands that will adjust to easily handle the increased diameter of these drums. The other concern people have is head choice. In wires, you can get 16-inch and 15-inch wires. They may not be down at your local mom and pop music store. Not that we have enough mom and pop music stores anymore, but I digress. They're not as common as 14-inch snares, or snare side heads. 15 and 16 are not as common as 14-inch snare side heads. So something breaks, something goes wrong, and you got to run down to the local store to pick one up because you got a gig that night and you're in the middle of some town out in the middle of the world that you've never been to before. You might be out of luck. But I got a new snare drum head for the 16. I ordered it on Tuesday. It showed up on Thursday. So in this day and age, and it wasn't Amazon, by the way. Let's not get into Amazon. It's Drum Factory Direct. A little shout out to those guys. Get no affiliation, just good folks. But ordered it on a Tuesday, and it showed up on my doorstep on Thursday. So they can be God. So I got two, so I got a spare. So you can get heads for these. You can get snares for these. It's not impossible. 20 years ago, it might have been a little bit tricky, but drum companies have gotten hip, and drum head companies have gotten hip. So, thus ends the individual side-by-side comparison. So let me reorient, take my one good camera downstairs, and get set up and do some drum set playing. Back in a minute.